Hello and welcome to the live podcast, Win More on Purpose. Today we have Malya Fievelson with us on how do I make money from a trade show, the prep and work that lead to cash flow. The agenda, for those of you who don't know, it's going to be a conversation between me and Malya. We're all here learning together. Write down those questions. There will be a Q&A at the end for those of you who are live. And for those of you who are joining us live, you can put into the chat where it is that you're coming in from, what it is that you're working on in your business, or just what it is that you do. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Yaacov Steinberg. I've been a sales coach for just about 5 years now, full time. When I first started in the space, I noticed that people were able to build 6-7 figure businesses on their own. They're good at what they do. They're passionate. Some point along the way, they learned how to speak to people, but they'd hit this glass ceiling, either because they were making it up as they went along, or because they didn't want to be that stereotypical used car salesperson, sleazy, pushy, getting people to even buy things they didn't necessarily need. And that's where I came into the picture. Mindset, technique, skills, really helping people to have that confidence and clarity in knowing who to reach out to, where to find them, what to say to them, and how to say it. Some of the people that I've had the pleasure of working with that you might know from LinkedIn would be Chaya Fishman, Hoodie Bluch, Hoodie Greenberger, Ellie Bosch, just to name a few. And thankfully, the clients that have worked with me at the 6-7 figure realm have been able to grow by even 50% in the first 60 days of working with me. Those at the 100K realm, give or take, have been able to grow by even 150% in the first 60 to 90 days. And those just starting out, solopreneurs, even just making $4,000 a month, have been able to grow by even 200, 240% in the first 45 days. Malya, really excited to have you here with us today. Tell us a little about yourself and let's get the show on the road.
Thank you, Yaacov, for having me. It's amazing what you do for your clients.
Thank you.
I'm listening and I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. So good job. My name is Malya Fievelson. I am a trade show specialist. My goal of my company is to turn your trade show into cash flow. So how we do that is we really make sure that you are set up for success months before the show even begins. We make sure that you're at the right show, making sure that your show is completely you understand the guests that are at the show, you understand why you're at the show, the goals of the show. And that's what I do. I love it. It's something that I never thought I would be doing. I started my career in college doing radio, and I went from radio station to radio station. I absolutely loved it. But I became an entrepreneur, and that is the best thing ever. Entrepreneurship is incredible, and I love it. And if I could help a company literally up their game at a trade show and actually make sales from a trade show, it literally just warms my heart. And that's why I do what I do, because I have seen my clients literally take the leads that we got them and turn them over into really big contracts. We're talking 6 figures. Even some had a few $1 million contracts that were signed post-show. So that's what I do, and I'm so excited to be here. So, Yaacov, thank you.
Absolutely. We're really excited to have you, and absolutely amazing what it is that you've been able to accomplish. I know that we had spoken way back when you were first toying with the idea of going into this full time, and I'm really excited to have you here on the podcast. I always like to dive right in, right? We named this all about making money at a trade show. And I think the first question that we need to ask, for the sake of our listeners at the very least, is why is it even important for companies to go to a trade show? And then we'll be able to break it down a little bit more as we go along, how to make the most out of them.
So I love this question. When I started my business, I started researching big companies, and I found big companies like Campbell Soup, Heinz Ketchup, Poland Spring, the water. How did they get so big? It's not that you just grew their brand slowly. They took action. They went to a trade show. They made a huge mark at the trade show. And if you know Campbell Soup, I know it's not kosher, so all those that only eat kosher might not know, but the label on the can is actually their award that they won at a trade show. So so they kept that on for recognition, and they kept it on for, it made their company, right, all of a sudden they won an award at a trade show. They're automatically considered a quality product. Poland Spring, if you research the company, it started off as a man that was ill, and he literally didn't know what was wrong with him, and he had a spring in his backyard, and he started drinking from it and literally healed him. So he said, I'm going to sell this water. What did he do? His son, I'm pretty sure it was his son, said, we're going to a trade show. They flew out to a huge trade show. They made a huge booth, a gorgeous booth. I wish I have the visual. I know we could Google it and find it, but gorgeous booth. And Poland Spring won best booth Once they won that, they got huge recognition. So, two reasons why trade shows are important. Number one, if you go to the right trade show, right now, Campbell Soup and Poland Spring and Heinz, they didn't just go to any trade show. They went to food related trade shows. Okay. They didn't go to car trade shows. They went to related niche
Right.
trade shows for their industries. So, two things. Number one, if you go to the right trade show that's niche down for you, you are guaranteed to succeed. So why to go to a trade show is number one, you want to succeed and get leads. And number two, instead of having to run around and try to find leads, you're in a room filled with thousands of people. Now, I do trade shows that span from, like, I think the smallest show was like 500 people up to 60,000 people in one room. Everyone here is in your industry. So that means you don't have to run around looking for people to work with. Everyone's in one room. So those are the two main reasons why trade shows are so important to go to. And obviously, there's a lot of subcategories as well, but those
Yeah,
are the
of
two main
course. I
ones.
mean, it's about the relationships at the end of the day, right? When you're going to the right place and you're there at the right in the right way at the right time, and you show up in the way that you need to, and you're able to build those relationships. I mean, that's it, right? You're in a networking event where you're able to reach out to pretty much anybody in the room, and they could
Hmm.
be that potential client or the person that's going to bring that
Yeah,
next sale to you. There's nothing like that, right? It's
yeah,
very different than going to a standard meetup or a regular networking event. Here, it's much more niche, much more on target for people as long as they understand the ins and outs of it. Um,
exactly. And I have some clients that go to like 5 trade shows a year. They
mhm.
don't, their leads come directly and their sales come directly from trade shows only. That is their
Right.
source of sales. Because why should they again run around, do other marketing when they could go to a few shows a year and all the people in their industry are in one room? So it's beautiful. It really works out well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that you mentioned, within Poland Springs and Campbell Soup, that was the recognition of the way that they showed up at the trade show and the fact that they made a really big hit there. What else is it about trade shows that really helps companies grow and expand other than the way that you show up and the fact that, really your market is right there? Is there anything else that you would think is important to keep in mind?
So I would say the most important thing about a trade show, I have clients that call me that say, I don't have money to invest in a really, really nice, beautiful booth. It doesn't necessarily, you don't have to walk away with the best booth. It's beautiful to get an award. Okay. It's beautiful to get that recognition so that people know your name. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is the goal, right? Sitting down with your team. And if you need help with this, you can reach out to me after the podcast. But really sitting down with your team and discussing, why are we going to the show? Why are we spending, let's say the average show costs $5,000 for an exhibit. Why are we spending $5,000, right? What do we think the ROI is? How many leads do we need to get in order to turn those into sales, right? There's generally a percentage of how many leads you have versus the sales that you get from those leads. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding the goal and then really defining what each team member is meant to do at the show. I work with companies that have done trade shows in the past, and everybody was just stepping on each other's toes because nobody knows what to do. If you
Right.
understand, yeah, if your team understands that this is your role at the show, this is your role at the show, everyone has a defining role, you're able to identify who the target client is so much quicker. You're able to filter out unnecessary cold leads that you don't need to follow up with after the show. And you're really able to make sure that you're making a lasting imprint and getting the right people in the door. So I would say defining your goal and defining the roles of each team member is the most important thing pre-show. During the show, you have to come with energy. You have to have a positive energy. You have to be the type of energy that is welcoming people in, right? People could feel energy. If you're just sitting around and just like sitting at your booth, like nobody necessarily wants to walk up to someone who's just sitting around. If you have energy and there's action happening, people will vibe with you and your booth will be filled with just a lot of people just from that energy aspect.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think that it's right on point. I mean, we speak about this in sales all the time. Your energy really sets the pace, whether it's a
Yeah.
cold call, whether it's a client call, whatever it might be. When we're showing up for a cold call, let's say, and we're smiling, people can hear it through the
Yeah.
phone, right? When you show up and you're just your regular self and you're not in a good mood and you're allowing those emotions to pour forth, there's a reason they don't want to talk to you. There's a reason that they're hanging up on you, because that's the energy that they're getting. It's that vibe they feel through the phone, as opposed to when you show up with that excitement. And again, we're not talking about effusive and over the top, classic salesperson. Hey, how are you? We're not talking about that, right? There's an energy that you can stay at the same regular voice that I'm speaking right now, but you can feel the energy in my voice, right? You can feel
Yeah.
that I'm happy and excited to be here, as opposed to someone who's just really not with it. And you can feel that difference, and it really affects everyone who's around.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you're saying through the phone. When I speak to my clients, like on the phone, sometimes they're like, Malia, we could hear you smiling. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm so happy to work with you. Like, if
Right.
another thing, like if you show up at a trade show and you're not just here to like get to the next person, because trade shows are quick. I snap my fingers because whenever I talk to my clients about the day of the show, I go like this. Trade shows are quick. They're very, very quick. So you have to understand, how are we filtering through this? How are we making sure we're really talking to the real leads? But at the same time, we never want to make someone feel unimportant. So it's
Right.
a balance. It's a
It's a
balance.
finesse.
Yeah, and you really have to make sure that everyone that you're speaking to, you really leave them with the impression of, I am so, like, they think, wow, that person at that booth really wanted to speak to me. They really made me feel like a person. And the Gadolei Hadar, like Rav Yashav, like he thrived at this. Like this was like, everyone was a person, everyone was special. So I just want to add that in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a great point. And I think this kind of moves directly into, the next question I was going to ask. You mentioned that there's a couple, things to take care of before the show, at the show, etc. What are some of the specific ways that you prep your clients to help them succeed at trade shows more than,
You're
let's say, other
yeah.
companies?
So I'll tell you, your questions are amazing because you're going straight for the value. Like, I love schmoozing, and you're like, okay, we're gonna schmooze a little bit, but like we're gonna keep up with the question. So
Let's go. We got to get all the value we can out of this. You are the trade show expert. We got to keep the people excited.
thank you. So the first step is really making sure that my clients are at the right show, as I just said it previously. I had someone called me up and they said that they want to go to a specific show. I was like, okay, like it's not going to work. I know that it's not going to work, and I don't want you to hire me. I'm declining the offer because I don't want it to like reflect badly on my company when I know it's not a good show. So I said, I recommend you not going to that show for your business. It's not the right niche. They went
Mm-hmm.
anyways, and guess what? It didn't work out, and they told me it was such a waste of time. So the first thing, the most important thing is making sure you're at the right show, checking out, making sure that your booth is all designed. My company does offer that as well. If my clients would like us, I have a design department, but I recommend if you have a marketing team, you use your own because they understand your product, they understand your logo and your wording so much more. But we do that. But once we're finished with the physical items, right, like the booth design, making sure all that's taken care of, I jump right into, let's set these goals. Let's understand your goals for the show, and I create those goals with you. I actually want to go back a second. Before we get there, me and my team learn your company in depth. So we go through your company. What is your company about? What is the heart of your company? Why do you do what you do? Who are you? Once we fully understand not only who you are, but how your company works, then me and my team could come up with what are the goals for the show and how to actually achieve those goals, right? What are we going to do to make sure that we achieve those goals at the show? Once we have that down pat, I'm able to really understand the promotional items, what to design for you. So I'm able to help them with promotional items. I help them with the team attire. I will give this away for free in this podcast. Um, if you go to a
Free
pot,
value alert.
yeah, this is free value. So boom, boom, boom. If you are going to a trade show and you've been doing this for many years with a big team, let's say four or more, and you guys have just showed up wearing whatever you want, this is your sign to change that. Make sure that everybody's wearing the same thing. It could be the same shirt, the same jacket, the same sweater, the same yarmulke if you're all men, the same blazer if you're all women. Make sure it's the same. If it's a mix of men and women, at least wear the same color, or the men wear one thing and the women wear the other thing. It stands out and it makes you a team. The one thing that companies want to work with a team, right? When they hire you, they want to make sure that if you're a whole team, you're all together and you're here for one goal. So by showing up all dressed the same, you show up with that confidence that our company is one unit. We're not just all floating around different units, we're all
Right.
together for one goal. So we work on that. Then I go on to role setting and filter. I create a filter system. And then it could be one lead generation strategy. It could be 3 lead generation strategies, depending on what my client's goal is for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And once we really finish up with, I create a whole trade show program for my clients. So once I really finish up with all that information, I'm able to create a hour by hour schedule of who is doing what, where's everybody being when, who is having lunch, who down to even like who's praying at what time and who's taking over their role at that time. So
Mm.
these trade show programs are really important. I go over it with my clients. I go over it with my team. We do team trainings. So if you have a team that's going to a trade show, even if you've been to a trade show before, my team trains your team on how to network. We bring you the pitch, right? Each role gets a separate pitch of what it is exactly that you bring to the table. So, right, what are you saying? What is it that your role is? But how are you pitching the company differently than the next person in the company? But I interview each team member, and each team member gets a specific role. So the team trainings are super important and super fun because we get to have like all the meetings like with the whole team, which is super fun. And then obviously, like when we're done all that, we go straight into, it's a lot of work, guys. I'm making it sound very, very simple with like literally
Yeah,
like
it's packed.
it's packed. And then we go in, the final thing is once I create the whole trade show program, I then go over it with everybody in the company, and everybody's on one meeting. If anyone has any issues, they voice their opinions if there's something that they need changed. Okay. Because we want to make sure that everybody's happy, because everyone's here for the same goal, which is to turn your next trade show into cash flow.
Nice. Very, very nice. I mean, there's so much value in that little clip right there. One of the pieces I want to delve into, you spoke about teams a couple of times. Why is it so important for those of us who don't know, and those listening? Why is it so important that a company shows up as a real team at a trade show?
Well, you want to trust the company that you're with, right? So, how do you trust the company that you're with? Number one, when you see a company that all is looking physically, the first thing that you see is color, right? The first, anywhere. If you're looking at an ad, the first thing that you see on an ad is the biggest letters. The first thing that you see on a billboard, right, is also those biggest letters that they're showing you. So same thing at a trade show. The first thing that you're seeing when you walk up to a booth is how the team is connecting with each other. And that says a ton about the company itself. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
you want to give off the vibe of we are one solid team to help you. We're not here to just take your money because we just want to make money. We are here together to help you make money. So those attendees at the show, when they see everyone's dressed in one color or wearing the same thing, automatically, subconsciously goes into their brain that says, this is a full team. I'm not just paying for a service, I'm paying for a full team behind my product. So that I would say is like that's the most important reason.
Right.
Basically that.
No, yeah. I mean, it's an extremely important point, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted you to talk about this, is the fact that the relationship building is super important, but first
Yeah.
impressions are everything, right?
Yeah.
First impressions make a really big difference. And ultimately at the trade show, like you said, the first thing that someone's going to see when they come up to a show, when they come up to a booth, is going to be the camaraderie between the people that are there, the way that they interact with each other, the way they're interacting with others, and the way that they look. And if you're able, the more cues you're able to subliminally and subconsciously give them that everyone here is here in order to support you as a single cohesive unit, the more people are going to take their trust, hand it over to you, and be willing to work with you, because people are looking to buy things on their emotion. They back it up with logic. And when they feel a certain way, that's what's going to get them over the finish line at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I also want to add that I try to, if I can, sometimes my clients are not open to it, but I try to have my clients use their logo color, even if it's bright, if it's red, if it's green, if it's aqua, whatever their color is, I want them to use it because I want it to be that when I'm on the trade show floor, and this happened at the home care show in September, someone was wearing a full green suit, and me and my team
Mm,
were wearing full green blazers. And someone's like, oh, wow, I see another one from your team. I want it to be that anytime they think of this color green, they think of my client and they go
right.
and they try to use their service, right? Anyone at that show, I want it to be anyone wearing that color is from that booth. Oh, wow, they have more people. They have more people. So it happened at a different show where we all wore red, and there was a few people wearing red blazers and everyone thought that they were part of our team. So we're not trying to like steal people here. It's not like, oh, you're trying to pretend that someone's part of your team, but it's more of, wow, look at them. Like, we recognize it's about remembering the team. So it's number one, showing up as one, and number two, you remember things that stand out. What is standing out? A team that's wearing a loud, bold color, and they're not scared to stand with that color. They wear it, and they wear it with pride. And then anybody that they see wearing that color is obviously from that company, because who else would wear that color? Do you know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like we said earlier, it's that subliminal messaging, that subconscious, thought process that people go through when they see those cues. And
Yeah.
that's really the point of that, is to bring people to this realization that you're here to support them. Like you said, it's not to take other away from anybody
Yeah.
else. It's to just help you to build yourselves up so that when people see you, they get excited about you.
Yeah. And it also
Uh,
brings more action to the booth, to be honest. Like, when everyone's matching, people come running like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on here? Like, there's so much action going on.
right.
This is so it's definitely a very small part about what I do, but a huge impact for the actual show. So I'm going to reiterate that so that you understand what I said. Not you, I'm talking about the audience.
Go ahead.
It's a small portion, a tiny bit of what I do, right? Choosing the attire is not the most complicated job. It does take time, but it's not the most complicated job of what my job entails when I'm working with a client, but it makes a huge impact once the trade show is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Going into a more technical route, right? You mentioned earlier that you have clients that sometimes will go to even 5 shows a year. What's a nice number of shows? How many that a company should be going to every year? Like, how do they know what makes sense?
Okay, this is literally one of my most popular questions.
Really?
Yes. And I love that you're asking it, because I always throw it back at my clients and I say, okay, so you're telling me that you want to do, let's use the number 10 because that's an even number, right? So let's say you want to do 10 trade shows this year. Do you physically have the capacity to turn over the leads? Let's say the minimum amount of leads I'm getting you is 100 a show. Let's say. And I've gotten my clients, one of them, I got my client 627 leads. That was more. I was at an
Wow.
Amazon show. Amazon was exhibiting. My client had a team of me and two other people. We got more leads than Amazon themselves. So just to show you the ability, yeah, it's something
Wow.
that I could get excited about. Um, but I will say, if you have the ability, right? If you have the team, if you have the sales force post show, and if you have the team post show to be able to overturn those leads and get in touch with every single person and understand if someone is at X, or if someone is in 6 months, or if someone is right now, then by all means go to more shows. If you do not have the ability, if you do not have the ability to turn over even one show, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. You have to have the ability to be able to turn over those leads. It's the most important thing. You're not just spending money to show that you're at a trade show. You're not spending money just to show that you worked with me, which is the Malya Cam and my team. You're hiring me and you're going to a trade show for one purpose, and that is to show off your product or service and go make money from it. So if you have the ability, then that's why I always say there's no way to say everyone should go to 5 shows,
Right.
because one company could turn over 5 shows in 1 month. One company could turn over 2 shows a year, you know? So it really depends. I have conversations with my clients before they sign the contract, if they're even gonna succeed, like if hiring me would make sense for them. So yeah, I ask them questions just to make sure that they're going to the show and it will actually be beneficial, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, I think they have this misconception that going to a show is just about the marketing. Oh yeah, I'm
Right.
going to go and I'm just going to, showing up is the most important thing. Showing up is important, right?
Yeah.
And we know that, like you mentioned in your, previous examples, showing up is very important.
Yeah.
But what's going to be the result of that showing up? Is that going to throw everything out of whack within your existing process?
Right.
And it's just going to ruin things then,
Right.
right? If it's something that you can keep up with, so then that's fantastic, right? Oh,
Yeah.
but I want to close more clients. That's really nice. But if you're going to go to a show and you're going to get a bunch of leads and people are excited about you and then you don't do anything about it, that's going to do more harm than good. I
Yeah.
think that's that piece that's really important because, oh yeah, what's the big deal? I'll get a lot of leads and okay, so I didn't follow up with everyone. Okay,
Right.
and yeah, but if you didn't follow up with anyone, don't go to another show because
Yeah.
you're just teaching people this is who you are. You're
Yep.
showing people that you show up and then you don't show up. And no one wants to hang out with someone like that. They want to hang out with people that are going to show up and be there. They want someone who's going to come back to them, show them that they're serious, and get things done.
Exactly. And I actually will add that I had a client who hired me. They never exhibited before. It was very overwhelming for them. I took care of the whole process. So they hired me for the whole package. My company designed their booth with my design team. We did everything from designing the booth to telling people when they're eating lunch, like
Full package.
the full package. And my client kept saying like, we don't need to go for leads. We don't want to go up to leads. We just want to stand there and be professional, right? Share information about our company, but just be professional. So I shot back and I was like, listen, like you're hiring me, like let's actually like aim to get leads. And my client was very persistent that he didn't want leads because he knows 100% that a trade show, he's not going to close any deals. Like it's just, he wants to be professional. And I was like, okay, let me do my thing. So it was a lot of back and forth. And I was like, let me just try for some leads. Like, give me some time that I could do my thing. So he agreed. And the week after the show, he calls me up, or one of his team members actually called me up and said, Molly, I want to let you know that we closed a deal from that show. And that one deal was so big, not only did it pay for the show and pay for my expense and pay for everything that entailed in that show, it was so much more than he ever expected to land. And it
Right.
was within 1 week. He thought he wasn't closing anything within 2 years. 1 week he closed the
Wow.
deal. So definitely, I want everyone to change your mindset. So we're going to take the mindset of just marketing out of your brain and we're going to throw it away. And we're going to remember that trade shows are really there, yes, for marketing, but to get leads and to close those sales, because those people that meet you, they're already warm. They're already a warm lead. They know you. They saw you in person. They're talking to you. You give them a handshake. Now that's physical touch. Like they know who you are. They know your company. Now go and close those sales.
100%. And it's a very important point. And another thing that I wanted to delve into, you mentioned this earlier. You had a client that you turned down because you felt that they weren't going to succeed at a show.
Yeah.
Right? How do you know if your client is going to succeed or not? Right? How does
Great
anybody know if they're going to succeed at a show?
So that was actually just one person that I turned down. Baruch Hashem, I'm in the business now that I'm really able to understand. Been in this for like about 4 years now. So I'm really able to understand if someone will succeed, if someone won't. And if someone's pushing to hire me, but I know that they won't succeed, I'm not going to take them on. So one question that I ask my clients is really, what is your niche? And then I Google the show, and so many times the show is not their niche. It's like, why are you going to this show? I'm going to switch the story around so that if this person's listening, they don't know that it's them. But I had a car salesman call me up and say that he really wants to sell his cars. And he told me that he's going to a show that was a construction show. So he figured that construction and people who are in construction still need cars. So he'll be able to go because it still matches up. Now, the show was very similar. It wasn't construction and it wasn't cars, but it was similar enough along the lines to say the people who are also going there could also benefit from my service. What I said to this person is, the thing that you don't understand is that when someone, let's say, is at a construction show, their head is not thinking about cars right now. Their head is thinking, I came with a list of things that I need for my business. Let me find those services and products that can help expand my company. They're not thinking, let me get a new car. So yes, you may think that the people there may need a car because everyone needs a car if they don't have one, or whatever the story is, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. So number one is like a good piece of advice I can give you, is to really narrow down your niche and really search within your niche. Someone just called me about about the OJBA, and his services were more for residential, not for commercial. And I said, I'm sorry, like, I'm not going to have you hire me. I turned down a really big trade show, quote unquote, because this guy never exhibited before. So it's the biggest package. I'm not here to just take someone's money. I want to really make sure that you're going to succeed. If I believe you'll succeed, I'll take the job, because there's no point to just take on jobs and the client doesn't succeed and then they're not happy. That's not a way to do it. So when I understood from that show, it's more of a commercial construction based more than residential. This is for individual homeowners, this person's service. And I realized it might not work for that. So really understanding your niche is really important. And the other question is, I always ask, what does one sale mean to you? Like, tell me what one sale is. What is a sale? What is a sale? How much is a sale? Is it a subscription based? Is it a one-time offer? How much are you making? If I can see that, like, someone called me and their average sale was $150. So I ran the numbers and I realized, I'm like, yes, you may be successful in getting, let's say, like 10 new clients, or you may get even 20 new clients, but that's not going to cover the cost of, yeah, we'll bring you tons of leads, we'll bring you tons of clients, but if you're not going to be able to turn over the price, then it's not worth it either, because then they're also not going to be happy. We spend so much money, even though you made, technically, if you're my clients, the amount that they make per item is a lot more, let's say a few $1,000s. Let's say they get 20 new sales from the show, that's a ton of money. But if someone's average sale is $150, and that's amazing, if that's your business, that's great. I'm not putting anyone down. I don't want anyone to think that I'm putting them down based on numbers. I'm just saying that hiring and bringing in a whole team is going to cost you a lot more, and it might not be beneficial for you. So does that make sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
It's about the return on investment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. If you're going to invest, and this applies to anything when it comes to business, if you're going to invest in something, you need to run the numbers about what could you potentially get back, right? If your average deal size is going to be, like you said, just a couple of $100, and even if you're able to close, a good 10, 15, 20 leads, it's only going to be, let's say, $40,000, $4,000. Well, if the show itself is going to cost you $5,000, and that's, not including the other expenses that are going to be around it, you actually make sense. Right. And that's what you're talking about. I think that's a very important point.
It might make sense, It might, here, let me just say one more thing on this point. It might make sense in terms of if my client says, I don't mind losing, because then I follow up once it's done. I don't mind losing, let's say, not losing, but I don't mind having a $2,000 expense if it's going to bring me the recognition and be able to get me these sales, these sales consistently. I would say closing 20 sales from a trade show is amazing and a huge success, and my company is able to help you do that. We're not talking about my company's ability or your company's ability, not you, I'm saying the person that's listening. We're talking about the average sale cost. So that's what I want to just separate. Maybe you want to explain it again, Yaacov, that we're not talking about the person individually. We're talking about the sale cost, what it actually is.
100%. Another, just moving on here, another big topic, I think, for people is, sometimes these trade shows are 3 days in a row, right? How do people keep their energy level all day at the right place? How do they make sure that they're taking care of themselves at these shows?
I love this. I love this because I love 3-day trade shows. Like, they are so energized. If you're the type of person that gets energized from people, I'm telling you right now that you can do this for 7 days straight. Well, let's say six because of Shabbos. Let's say 6 days straight. I am telling you, you would be able to do it, and I'll explain to you how the process goes of what I do to prepare. That can help you as well. But if you're someone that gets your energy sucked out from people, then definitely hire us. I mean, even if you love the energy, still you can still hire us because we'll use you part of the team and it will be amazing. But if your energy gets sucked out, then like my team will take care of it for you. Like you don't even have to
Right.
show up. We'll do it for you. So a few things that I make sure that I do if I'm traveling, let's say a flight, if it's where I live around, then I go the morning of. But if I have to fly, always fly a day early. So I'll tell you guys also, if you fly somewhere, fly a day early so that you can get a good night rest, show up on time, and really rock it out. Another thing that I would do, what I would say is try to show up at least 15 to 20 minutes early to the show, even if you're there the night before or if you are driving, so that you can meet with the team, you get a cup of coffee or tea, whatever it is. You're able to energize yourself. You walk around, just connect with the different exhibitors because connecting with different exhibitors will, first of all, you'll be able to see the whole floor plan and you'll be able to start getting into that feeling of like, let's go. Now, during the show, it's extremely important to number one, take like 10-minute breaks. So I prepare that for my clients in advance, who's taking a break when, go sit down, go get a drink. Drinking and protein is a must. You have no idea how important it is to eat and drink during a trade show, especially if it's 3 days. Hydrate the day before and have a protein filled breakfast that morning. Like every trade show, it's the same thing. I have my eggs in the morning, have my cup of tea. I do my thing. If you are someone that also likes to have carbs, do it. Carbs tire me out. So, if I have that in the morning, it's not the best way to energize myself. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll have a bagel, but generally it's been eggs. Like that is my thing. So I always tell my team also, like, you must eat. You must, like, my clients know they must, like, I have a chat with my clients and maybe I could even pull one up, but it's just going to take time. But I wrote in the morning, like, have your tea or your coffee and have those eggs, like, have protein. So that's super important, and drinking throughout the day. One of my assistants who works for me, she is very good at making sure that everyone at the team is drinking. So she'll go get water bottles for everybody every like hour and a half. Just drink this, drink this. Like it's something that she does. She took the job upon herself, and since she did that, it's stuck with her, and she's great.
Amazing.
Taking a proper lunch, eating proper snacks, and the last thing is when you get back to the hotel at night, make sure that you're resting. What I do is after every trade show, I lift my feet up for 20 minutes, like, you're supposed to, like, so that blood flow and stuff, but I raise my legs for 20 minutes and I'm able to just like relax.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to do that as well and get a good night's sleep. Like, yes, if you're out, let's say you're in Las Vegas and you want to go to a show or something, go to a show. If the show ends at 6, go to a show that doesn't end later than 9 p.m. Like, let's say a Las Vegas show, right? The trade show, let's say, ends at 5, 6 o'clock. Go to a show that does not end later than 9 o'clock so that you're in bed by 10. Get a good night's sleep and then start the process again. And it's amazing. So those are really good night's sleep, protein, and hydration. Super important. I became a little food coach doing trade shows too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I made a post about this earlier today, and pretty much every single thing you like hit the nail on the head. One of the things that I would also say is make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes. I mean, if you're going to be walking around and you're hitting the floor, and even if you're just standing on your feet, I mean, it's something that so many people overlook because they want to look a certain way, but you can get really nice shoes that look, that actually feel nice too, and that will take care of your feet. And there's nothing like that. I mean, it's super important. The only other thing that I would add is, standing straight, breathing deeply, that will help you to maintain your energy throughout the day. And, maybe a little bit of, stretches every once in a while in between conversations, just to make sure that you're keeping yourself moving and you're not staying, in one place for too long. But yeah, I mean, pretty much everything else, it's, making sure you're getting those quiet moments, keeping your protein and making sure, you're pacing your conversations. Like you said, things move really, really quickly. And you want to make sure that people feel like you are 100% involved in them. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're staying on top of, the way that you're coming across, the energy that you're, giving over to people. Um, and the only way you can do that is if you're maintaining your energy. And like you said, the day starts the night before.
Yeah, it
That's a
really
big
does.
piece.
When I have a trade show, I am making sure that I'm drinking extra the day before. It's almost like a fast day,
It's almost
even though
like a
you're
fast.
eating.
That's what I was
But
thinking.
like you have to prepare. I always say you have to prepare. And I totally forgot about the shoes. Everybody knows me already. Like they know me with my white sneakers. Like it's just
Yep.
so funny. Like
As soon as you
everyone
said,
at
I'm like, oh, white sneakers.
yeah, like my like people that see me at trade shows often, they're like, "Oh, Malya, different blazer, same shoes." Because it's literally the only shoes that I've ever worn that I feel like I'm walking on clouds. And they're
And it's
just
super
so
important.
comfortable. Yeah.
It's super
You got to
important.
do that. Yeah. Once I went to a trade show and I wore pretty shoes over comfortable shoes, I couldn't move for like literally I had to take Advil. I was in so much pain. Like it's better to wear comfortable over pretty because no one's staring at your shoes, to be honest.
It's true.
They're just not.
I know that you mentioned earlier the most amount of leads that you got was, I think it was 627.
Yeah, I just
And
said
you
that in the
outpaced
press. Yeah.
and you outpaced Amazon at that show. What do you consider a lead? Right? So many people, I think they get stuck on this idea of what is and what is not a lead when they're at a show. Let's make sure that that's super clear for everyone here today.
Okay, guys, so listen up. I'm about to define what a lead is. For every company, it's going to be something else. A company, let's say, would want a hot lead or a database, quote unquote, lead, right? So I make sure that I speak to my client before. So let's say there's a client that wants both. They want me to create a database for them and they want hot leads right now. So a hot lead is someone that can use their services within the next 6 months, from right now till 6 months. So it's urgent. Someone that tells me exactly what they're struggling with and that they know that they need to fill the role or they know that they need that service, right? So a hot lead is someone that when you're speaking, they're like, this is it. This is what we need. Okay. And the client, obviously, it's a little bit more vague because I don't have an exact example, but
Mm-hmm.
because I could go into a client and say a client's example, but it might not register because they don't have all the background. But
Sure.
what I'm trying to say is, in terms of an actual lead, is I understand what the goal is of the show. From the goal, I ask my client, what does an ideal lead look like for you? Right. So they might say an administrator, or they might say a interior designer, or they might say just different a CEO of a a CEO of a, let's say, a nursing home. So all these are the people that they want to talk to. So that's number one. We look for those people, and then
Mm-hmm.
we find out, okay, what are you struggling with? And then we share what our product is once we hear their pain points. Once we see, okay, they're ready to go, like in the next 6 months, we put them down as a hot lead. Now, someone else comes to the booth and they're like, oh, this is so interesting. We keep saying that we need this, but we're not big enough yet for 2 years, but we need this. This happened to me. I was in Las Vegas. I was doing a show. It's called the ABC Kids Show. And people said, we don't need this for another 2 years, but we know that we need this product, but we're not ready for it. We're not big enough for it. So that person goes into a database and it says, reach out in 18 months, because in 18 months is getting close to 2 years. So not only do my clients come away with hot leads that actually need their service, but when they also have another goal, depending on the goals, if they have another goal to create a database, I create a database for them of all the people that want their service. They're just not ready. It's between 6 months and 3 years. I don't generally go past the 3 year mark, just because I don't see that it makes any sense to go past the 3 year mark. People change, companies change. So I go up to 3 years, and I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that is fantastic. And I think it's so great the way that you're splitting that up, right? It's people who want it, between 6 to 3 years would be considered a warm lead. They want this, they're not ready. And then, everybody who's, under that marker, under the 6 months will be a hot lead. And then obviously there's the people who just say, oh, yeah, that sounds really interesting. But, we don't want to be spending time. And I think this is a mistake that so many salespeople make. And I believe businesses as well. You don't want to be spending time on people that aren't ready for you and that you need to convince. We're
Yeah.
not in the business of convincing people. right?
Right.
Leave that to the used car salespeople that are trying to get people to buy things they don't need, right?
Right.
You want to provide value to people, right? I had a conversation with someone today that they needed the service that I offer, and we went back and forth. And I said, let's just break this down. I spent, an extra 20 minutes helping them to just understand what was on the table, what were the things they were going through, why they were hesitating. In the end, they ended up moving forward. Not always does that happen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really understanding what are the needs of the people you're talking to? How do I best serve them? And at what point do they need that service?
Right.
Right. And
Right.
wasting your time on people who don't need or aren't ready or any of the above, you're just spending time on people that aren't really going to bring anything to you. And
Yeah.
listen, we're all for providing value, we're all for giving service, but if we're talking about leads, that's not a lead.
Right. So that's why, in terms of the filter system that I create for my clients, it's a very specific way on how to filter out if someone is a lead, if someone's a hot lead, if someone's a warm lead, if someone is just,
Right.
I don't want to use the word nosy because I don't like that, but there are people that come around. This
They're
happens many
just
times.
curious.
Not only curious, but they have the same company and they're coming around to gather information. So we don't listen. There is no competition. No one can take anything away from you. And like literally, if someone is meant to make money, Hashem will make sure that that money goes into your pockets. Like no one is able to take away any
I wish
money
I had a
from
way of
you.
making this big noise because that was powerful.
No one is able to take away any money from you. With that being said, at a trade show, when you're there to gather leads and you're there to meet people who want to do business with you, it's very frustrating when someone just tries to gather information about your company so that they can copy what you're doing. So we have to figure out how to filter those people out. So I would say
100%.
the filter system really, really covers what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll open the floor to Q&A for everyone who wants to, throw into the chat. While we're doing that, me and Malya will continue talking. I think another question that I would ask is, what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about, opening their own business? They're thinking of going to trade shows. How do they know whether, we mentioned a little bit early how to know whether, it's the right thing for you. But, when it comes down to these types of things, just what are some advice that you have for people? You've been doing this for a long time already now, 4 years.
Yeah.
And, just a couple of, different pieces of advice you might have for someone.
Okay, so number one, if you're planning on going to a trade show, first of all, make sure to reach out to me so I can help you. But on another sense, if you are starting to open up your own business, I mean, like that's amazing. Like go for it. You have a dream, you have a vision. I know, Yaacov, I feel like this is a two-part question, right? If someone's opening a business and if someone's going to a trade show.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said before, I never expected to be an entrepreneur. I basically evolved into an entrepreneur when I didn't even realize I was being an entrepreneur. I created a business literally from nothing. Like there's no business like mine. Nobody has a business the way that my business is set up. So I basically created an industry that I don't think was really in existence from what I know. I know there's a lot of agencies that you can hire models to stand at your booth. That's not what my company does. My company is trade shows specialized company. But if you're opening up your own business, good luck. And I just want to say, like, understand there will be hard times, but build up that resilience. Don't stop just because things get tough. We're in Cheshvan right now, okay? Cheshvan is Mar Cheshvan. It's considered a bitter month, but it's the most beautiful month that there is. You know why? Because you are not getting the inspiration from above during this month. The inspiration comes from below. What does that mean? The inspiration comes from within, okay? You have to
Beautiful.
trust yourself. You have to push yourself. And if you want something specifically also during this month is you have to work for it. So if you want to have a successful business, if you want to get clients, if you want to build up your LinkedIn presence, it's not just going to happen. You have to put the work in. So good luck. You could do it. Believe in yourself. I know that I believe in all of you who are trying to build a business. It's not easy. I did it. Never expected to. Basically just happened. But it's the most beautiful thing. Now, what's the other question? If you're planning on being a first-time exhibitor, I feel like we explained a lot of that.
We covered really. We did get a question here in terms of follow-up, right? How do you make sure that everyone's following up with the leads that you were able to get for them? And how can people make sure to do that for themselves? This is a question that came in.
Great question. So if you're an attendee or an exhibitor, this works for both of you. If you are an exhibitor, what I do with my clients is I create a post-show follow-up strategy, which I'm not going to go through fully here, but if you want to find out what that is, you can DM me on LinkedIn at Malya Fievelson. But in general, it's really understanding who is doing what after the show, right? Who's in charge of organizing the leads, who's in charge of sending the leads, who's in charge of making sure that the leads are going to the right person, who's in charge of calling certain leads. Like, it's a post-show follow-up in terms of who's doing what. At the actual trade show, what I do with my clients, and this is also a free, this is free. I wasn't going to give this one out for free, but I am going to give this one out for free because you asked the question. This is something that I really just share with my clients, but this has been a great podcast. So in honor of Yaacov and the person who asked the question, I am going to give this one away. The easiest thing to do is to have no follow-up. Now you may be like, what does that mean, Malya? Like, boom, like, what do you mean no follow-up? What does that mean? Okay, here we go. You ready? At the show, you're talking to someone, you're having a great conversation. Pull out your phone and say, I would love to schedule a call right now. I would love to meet up with you for lunch. Take out your calendar, schedule it on the phone right then and there. That way, boom, you know that next week, Monday at 12 o'clock, you have a meeting. There's no wondering when we're following up. We're having a conversation already. You're already connected. You already have a meeting set. One of my clients wanted me to specifically meet with someone at the show, and he had a hard time speaking with this person. And it was always, no, we're not working with you. They come to the booth, and I see him, and I'm like, okay, that's him. So I walk up to him, I'm like, you're the man I've been waiting to speak to. I heard you have this company, fine. He's like, I'm not listening. I'm not interested. I don't want to do this. I don't want to work with any other company. I'm set. Like, very, very straight. I said, let me just explain to you, like, the benefits of working with us. And if you want to stay with the company you're with, that's fine. But let me just explain. So 5 minutes goes by. I turn this guy's absolute no into, okay, let's see what you have to offer. I took out my client's calendar, scheduled a lunch date. My client drove from where he lived, which was an hour and a half away from this other person. He drove down, they had a lunch date, and they're talking business. So it's extremely important to try. Obviously, there are going to be people that don't want to schedule meetings. So then there will be follow-up, but the easiest way is to just get that meeting down. Another thing that you can do is, I'm stopping myself from saying this. Never mind. If you want that other thing, call me up.
Right, go for it. You can do it.
No, if you want that other strategy that I give my clients, give me a call and we'll discuss it.
Amazing. This is really powerful in and of itself. I mean, the idea of just scheduling something on a calendar, I think, is something that most people don't even think of doing. I think that's really, really powerful. I'm so curious what the other thing is. I guess we'll have to talk about it post-show. For those of you who are listening into this podcast that are here, it's so important. I have an entire page of notes, and it's extremely important to remember. I say this at the end of every show. Please don't try to do everything at once. You will, if I were to try to take care of everything that was on this list, I'd probably trip, break my nose, and it would be a disaster. Go slow. Pick one thing. Make sure that you have it clear. Make sure that you're going through this process in a systematic way as much as possible. If you're not trying to do that, obviously reach out to Malya for that. But that's really the best way of going through these types of things. You mentioned at least twice, I think, in the podcast, Malya, about people being able to reach out to you. I know that you were going to mention that as an offer anyways at the end. So tell us a little bit about that while I put your contact information for LinkedIn in the chat.
Okay, you could also put my email in the chat. You guys can email me, Malya, that's Malya, at the, which is THE, malyacam.com. So it's Malya at THE, malyacam.com. And you can just say, hey, I was on Yaakov's podcast. I want to discuss some trade shows, and I will give you a 20-minute conversation where we really talk about your company, what your company is doing, what your company's product is, and if you are the type of business that would really benefit from going to a trade show. So you can either email me at malya@themalyacam.com, or you can DM me on LinkedIn. And make sure to go follow Yaacov Steinberg on LinkedIn because he's doing amazing stuff with his podcast. Check out his podcast, also Spotify and everywhere else. I know I'm doing that for you, but he really does great stuff. He has amazing guests on here each week, and everything is just filled with value. So if you're not following him yet, make sure to go follow.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate the plug, that's for sure. And yeah, Malya does absolutely amazing work. I knew some of the examples that she had mentioned today. I happen to know one or two of the people that she brought in, and I have heard amazing results from them and from the work that she has done. For anybody who wants to, I think that is an extremely powerful offer. Those 20 minutes, you will get a tremendous amount of value out of that. And for myself as well, if you liked listening to this live podcast, we try to speak about things that are timely, interesting, things you can add to your skill set toolbox. And if you have any questions for myself, you can feel free to reach out to me. I put my Calendly link as well as my WhatsApp um, into the chat, and my contact information will be in the description as well. Those get grabbed up pretty quick, so definitely reach out to me if you want one of those 30-minute free strategy calls. No strings attached, just happy to help. This has been absolutely fantastic, Molly. Thank you so much for jumping on and for sharing so much value with us today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm just so happy to be here. And now we have something to help people reach out to me all the time. Do you have a podcast about trade shows? And now I have a podcast about trade shows. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And just wishing you so much success with all the good that you do.
Thank you very, very much. And thanks to everyone else who's been here with us today and who's listening in. Take care. Until next week. Have a fantastic rest of your day.